Oh my gosh, how are you ladies doing today?
Hello,
We're
Farran.
good.
Okay, well, we'll introduce everyone, Robin.
Okay, so I have Dental Consultant Connection, and we have phenomenal consultants that work with us. And Christine and Leslie are our compliance auditing specialists, experts. And so today, that's who we have here. And they can tell you a little bit about them, and I can tell you more about Dental Consultant Connection if you want to hear it. But we're really here to talk about what they're able to do, how they're able to help dental practice owners, investors, anybody looking to buy, invest in a practice. They absolutely, positively need to have their practice audited first. And so these are the ladies that are the experts. Leslie's the HIPAA OSHA expert, and Christine is the billing coding expert.
Well, then that gives us 20 minutes each. Should we go left to right? Should we start with Leslie, then Robin, then Christine?
Sure.
Sounds good.
That's great.
All right, Leslie, you're talking to about 7,000 people, probably 80% of the United States. What is the low-hanging fruit that you can teach them today as they're commuting to work?
Well, today, what I'd like to impress upon everyone is how important it is to be safe at work, for your team to be safe, for your patients to be safe, and that all falls into the category of OSHA compliance. But that's not it. There's more to it. Infection control is a big hot topic today. We need to know that we're doing things correctly, that we're using the right products, that we're following the manufacturer's directions. And what I find is that many times when dentists are seeking a new practice, they're looking at everything from the front office, the numbers, the equipment, the payroll, the team, but they're not really looking at the steps that have been taken to keep the team safe. Is the office in compliance, or are they buying a potential landmine?
And so what do you think is the protocol? I mean, it happened. Everybody listening today has the situation where you get done giving a shot and you stick yourself or the assistant with the needle.
Well, I think really what people need to look at is does the office have systems in place? Is there an OSHA coordinator? Is there an infection control coordinator? If there's not, if they've been playing tag team with the requirements for regulations, is there at least an OSHA manual? Have they conducted any training? Do they have any documentation of training? Are they taking care of the waste management properly, or have they been collecting sharps in a back room and just allowing them to pile up? Have they had any kind of experience with having some hands-on infection control training in their team so that they know that they're doing the right things when it comes to using their own equipment, using their own products, and making sure that the care that they provide for patients is safe? So I would be looking at those things to see what have they got in place. I'd also be looking at, have they followed the regulations concerning chemicals? Is there an MSDS book? And if there is, have the team members been trained on the new MSDS book? SDS is the new MSDS these days. So if they don't know that lingo, then they haven't had the training that OSHA has required to be in place by 2013. So I would be very careful if I was a dentist buying a practice, buying the team, but having a team that doesn't have the education in place.
And we all see this, Robin, you see it all day long as consulting. It's so bizarre how a lot of people ask me, like, well, how do you do it? How do you run a dental office and lecture and have a magazine, all that stuff? And it's just delegation. Dentists have so hard of a time with that. They're so controlling and they don't let go. Like I have one person in my dental office. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to. And that's what you just said. Have what did you say? A OSHA compliant coordinator. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I tell dentists all the time, the founder of McDonald's, Ray Kroc, is dead. And 40,000 McDonald's get up and have no problem without him. You know what I mean? Because they created systems and they delegated, and you can go to the grave. Sam Walton spent the first 20 years of his life opening up 18 Walmarts. And now he's dead, and they open 40 a month. I mean, I don't know why these guys can manage from the grave, and a dentist can't manage inside their dental office while they're alive, standing in front of it because they can't delegate. Robin, what is your why do you see dentists using consultants? What is the low hanging fruit of how you guys add so much value when you go in there and your all your team members are business consulting and office consulting? What do you think they don't get?
Well, it could be a lot of different things, actually, and every practice is a little bit different. But bringing in experts like Leslie and Christine, and I mean, we have experts in, that can go in and set up a perio program, that handle fraud, that handle systems, that handle HR issues, all kinds of things. And one thing that we see that happens a lot of times is the practice owner, the dentist, wants to try to handle all those things themselves. And when they do that, then it's not effective all the time because they're not experts in that area. You guys are dentists, you guys are clinicians, and I would say, you probably know this, a large percentage just are not business people. So to bring in experts that can do those things that they need help with, that can actually grow their practice like beyond expectations, I mean, that's what they need to do. But I think they get caught up in, and we're all business owners too, and we try to do as much of it as we can ourselves. But then at a certain point, we have to get smart enough and delegate certain things. And I know I have to in my business. And that's even part of the reason I started DCC, was because I can't be an expert in billing and coding and HIPAA. And I can be pretty good and know enough to be dangerous maybe in all the areas. But I certainly cannot be the experts that the people are on this team in their niche areas. So I think dentists have to do the same thing. They have to delegate to the experts.
And the dentist should get this because, we work with 9 specialties. I mean, you pull your own teeth, but you need an oral surgeon to pull the ones you don't want to do. You do your own endo, but you have endodontists doing the molars and retreats that you don't feel doing. Same thing ortho. You might do PowerProx 6-month smiles, Invisalign, some adult ortho, but you have orthodontists for that little girl comes in at 12 years old that when she smiles, it looks like her liver is showing. You can't know all of clinical dentistry. And I don't know a single dentist who says, you know what, I know everything about every area of clinical dentistry. But then they go into their business side, and that's where they assume that they do. And it's funny, now that I've been out of school 28 years, it's embarrassing how biased I am when a kid walks out of dental school. I can predict their success with just a couple of variables. Number one, if they weren't born in the United States of America, they'll do infinitely better because when they're born in any country other than America, they have a work ethic and they'll open up their office and work 7 to 7 Monday through Saturday while they're living in their dental office. And if they're born in America, they'll buy a practice for $400,000 and a house for $300,000. They'll leave every day at 5. They'll buy a $30,000 car. They'll eat out 19 out of 31 meals. And you come back to that kid at 50 years old and they're still paying off debt. But the Asian kid is debt free in 4 years because they literally started a dental office, lived in the unplumbed operatory, didn't even own a car, and their cell phone was on their business card, and they took emergencies 24/7 for the first 4 years for an emergency toothache, a root canal, and then the second prediction. So I always tell people, if you're in dental school and you were born in the United States, marry a dental student who was not born in the United States while you're in dental school. That's the single best move you can make in dental school. I
gotta tell you a quick thing, Howard, too, about talking about Asian dentists. And I met one that she was a young dentist, out maybe 4 or 5 years. She actually opened a yogurt shop too, a frozen yogurt shop to run on the weekends to make more money. I mean, I was blown away.
Yeah, I mean, the immigrants that come here for a reason. They're highly, highly motivated, and their work ethic is off the charts. I mean, not many people leave a continent and go to another continent to find a job. And the ones that do, you cannot compete with an immigrant. When you open your dental office, even when you look at the demographics, they'll say, well, there's 10 dentists in the zip code. First thing I say, yeah, well, how many of them weren't born in the United States? Because if there's more than one, I'd run. Second thing is, if their dad or mom worked as an employee in an assembly line screwing a bolt in a hole, and their mom stayed home and made cookies, and they had no experience with a small family business, that's tough. I mean, if your dad and mom were wheat farmers, dairy farmers, had a restaurant, or were dentists, if their parents owned their business, that's the deal. If mom and dad own the business, what the little child doesn't realize that there were so many business conversations at the dinner table that you didn't realize you were sitting in MBA school. And if your mom and dad own their own business, those kids pick up so much free enterprise. They don't even know how smart they are because they weren't formally sweet. You know what? You have 35 consultants working for you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. They don't actually work for me. They're part of our team. So what we do is we'll do a practice analysis when a new client comes to us, and we'll analyze their practice, analyze their needs, and help them determine who is going to be the right consultant to help them with their specific needs. And it may be 2 or 3. It may be in a specific order. They may have to implement phone training and customer service and systems before they can start marketing. And so we help them determine that, because we find so many times, and I've been in this field 34 years myself, worked with a lot of consultants when I was in a practice, and sometimes you don't get the right consultant at the right time. They may be the perfect consultant for a particular area, but that might not be what they needed right then in the practice. So we really take a deep look and put a lot of thought into who's going to be the right match for that particular practice at that particular time.
You know what would be just unbelievable? I think it'd be unbelievable for these dentists is you should get your 35 consultants and make a curriculum on Dentaltown. We put up like 320 courses. They've been viewed over 550,000 times, 500,000 views so far. And you should do a 35-hour practice management curriculum. Just have each one of your consultants do an hour, and it'd be the best marketing for the consultants. It'd be so unbelievably awesome for the dentist. And we should do that with the podcast too, because we're looking at the data. There are 2 separate behaviors. Some dentists say, oh, I have to go to a lecture. I'll never read the book. Other people, like myself, I'd always go to the dental convention and buy the textbooks and implantology. I just go buy the textbook. I could take the textbook home, read it in a weekend. Or another dentist say, no, I need to sit in a lecture. I'll buy the book and I'll never read it. And the people doing the online CE are a different market than the ones that like to do the podcasts, because the podcast is a multitasking behavior. They're all commuting to work. Every single dentist that tells me they love my podcast, they say, yeah, I live in a small rural town of 5,000. I have a 70-minute commute every morning to work, and I just burn one of these out on the way to and from work every day. That's why we do 2 a day, actually.
Makes perfect sense. Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it, Howard.
Yeah, let's do it. So I feel Christine hasn't got to say anything. Christine, we should allow you to say at least something. You can sit over there and yell SOS or help, or how are you doing?
Normally I don't shut up, so I'm really good today.
We saved the best for last.
Yeah, thanks, Robin.
I'm kidding.
One of the things that I love about working in conjunction with other people is, one of the things I do teach dentists is collaboration, whether it's with your team, other doctors, and now medical providers. And working with Leslie and Robin on a big project has been one of the best experiences of my 30 years in consulting and speaking. And the reason is we can focus on what we know best, and we don't have to guess or try to work on something that is not our passion, is not our expertise, and is not something that we should even be talking about. Because some of these things are so important. It's what will, A, keep a practice profitable, and B, keep doctors out of legal issues. I mean, what Leslie does is keeping them legal. What I do as far as documentation and coding is a legal part of their business. And a lot of doctors don't remember that they don't have to participate. This is such a fallacy with an insurance company to get an audit. They just need one person to make a phone call, whether it's a patient or a person working in the office, to make a call on OSHA, to make a call on billing, or any of those things that bring up things on why they should be compliant and what we could do for them. And why purchase a practice? We just went through this where we did an audit for 7 different practices owned by one person, and a company was going to come in and infuse them with money, and we uncovered so many things that the company decided not to go through. And that was a good business decision on their part. They paid us, but they looked at what they paid us as a smart investment. And if doctors could think investment, they would be using us all the time. Right, Leslie?
What do you think are the major billing code errors that you see in dental office? I mean, the one thing I always notice in dental office billing codes is that if you walk into your buddy's dental office at the end of the day and you just say, hey, before everybody leaves, let's go through every patient, what was done, what was entered, what was billed, you can always find at least $200, if not $300. The hygienist took bite wings that wasn't entered. The dental assistant took a PA or what. I mean, you can always find a couple $100 at the end of every single day with this one step. But what are you thinking when you see dental coding errors?
Well, what I see, one of the biggest problems comes from documenting a diagnosis such as bleeding in perio, but yet they did a prophy. So they're looking at what insurance will cover rather than what the patient needs in a lot of instances. And if you do receive an audit, that's what they'll look at. They'll look at what you documented and what you provided. So if you write that you did nutritional counseling, you should code that you did nutritional counseling so that everything matches up, regardless of whether you want to charge for it or not. You are responsible for educating your patient and providing them the best treatment, not what insurance covers. So providing scaling and replanning, but documenting a prophy is a major issue in our country. We tend to do what we think the patient wants, but we'll do the best treatment and document the least best because of money. So we're doing a disservice to a lot of people.
You guys have we've all four been in the industry about the same length of time. I mean, even though I look like I could be all of your dads, we've all been in this industry a long time. What do you think? Do you think since corporate dentistry focuses more on business, HR, marketing, billing, all this business systems, how successful, how much of the market do you think they've taken as of now, 2015? And what is your prediction 10, 20 years down the road? I mean, do you think they're going to get twice as big? Do you think their heyday is over? Do you think it's a cycle they'll contract? Where do you see corporate dentistry in the future? Robin, or whoever wants to go.
Go ahead, Christine. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I just really had a conversation with one of the big corporations, which I cannot name, but they're growing at 20% every 6 months. I find that to be amazing. They're not only buying practices, but they're building practices. So they're spreading way across the country. I mean, 20% is a big number, Howard, for a corporation to be building in. And the other thing that we see as investment companies helping doctors grow if that's where they want to go. So right now, I'm working with more clients that are building additional practices, hiring dentists, putting them in, bringing in partnerships, 5-6 practices in a short amount of time. So I'm seeing more corporate because they have more business-minded people when they start out, rather than dentists, assistants, and front desk people who, by the way, never get any training, which is one thing that I am so passionate about. If we hold doctors responsible for coding, we should enforce them the ability to have training for themselves and their teams every single year, because codes change every single year. That's what I'm seeing. That's why they're successful.
What do you think, Robin?
It's interesting because I don't think I have a really solid prediction. I started in dentistry in 1981, and I remember when HMOs and all that started coming along, and everybody got really nervous and scared. And then I remember Abram King. I don't know if you guys ever knew Abram King or heard him speak, but
I live in Phoenix. That's where he lived.
Oh, okay.
He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah, he did. Okay. So he predicted the 3 tiers in dentistry, and I think those 3 tiers are still there. So I think that top tier is always going to be there. And I know that's my niche. Those are my typical clients that I work with on the consulting I do for case presentation and marketing. And I think that's always going to be there. Those two other bottom tiers, the one in the middle and the one at the bottom, that, as far as quality dentistry and, compromising certain things in dental care, that's probably going to be the bigger piece of the pie. But I do always believe there's going to be that top tier. And I know plenty of them that are thriving right now. So it's a hard prediction, I think, because through the years, it's kind of gone up and down. There's been scary times in earlier years.
Yeah, Americans always, people have a hard time predicting cycles. I mean, I remember when the stock market from 93 to 2000, people thought the stock market would double every 2 years for eternity. And then what goes up comes down. Yeah, we saw a big corporate dentistry in 87, Orthodontic Centers of America. And then we saw that all crash, and now they're back again. But I think it's interesting how when you talk to marketing consultants, they've always said about half of America buys on price, and about half of America buys on relationship, value-added service, whatever. And then you combine that, overlap that with what my son Greg Farran data keeps showing me, that lawyers, there's 1 million lawyers, only 150,000 of us. Half the lawyers work in these big corporate firms, and the other half are small boutique niche. And I think that's where dentistry's going. I think the half that buys on price, corporate will probably do it better, faster, lower cost. And the half that buys on relationships will still be a boutique practice. I mean, I don't know why corporate dentistry is a threat when 100% of all your new patients left another dental office because they weren't happy. I mean, I just don't. I mostly see Americans not happy with their dentist. If you're flying on an airplane and you sit next to someone, you say, "How old are you?" And she says, "I'm 50." And they say, "Okay, 50 years in the same city?" "Yeah." "How many different dentists have you gone to in your lifetime?" And she'll start thinking, so I don't know, 4 or 5. "Okay, why did you leave?" They're always leaving because they're not happy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you can just shut the back door and listen to her and talk to her and win her over with a dynamic team or whatever, and then you're going to build a dam in that creek, and then eventually it'll be Hoover Dam, and that lake will be a mile wide. So I don't see anybody keeping their patients. I mean, think about it. How many dentists do you know that don't even accept new patients? If a hygienist worked 1,000 hours, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours. That means she could only clean 1,000 people twice a year. So if you got 25 new patients a month, every 33 months, every 3 years, you add another hygienist. You go to anyone's dental office, their hygiene capacity hasn't changed in the last 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. They say, "Yeah, I've had one hygienist, Shirley, for 40 years. Really, dude? How many new patients you get a month?" "Oh, about 30. So you have 30 coming in the front door, 30 coming out the back door, and it doesn't matter if you're corporate dentistry, private dentist, doesn't matter who you are. Every time you get a new patient coming in, shaking your hand, someone else is waving goodbye out the back door and leaving you." So
that's true. It always amazes me, Howard, because the typical solo practice that I might work with, I'll find out their active patient count. It's not always accurate, but it's pretty close. I hear the number 1,200 all the time. But like you said, they're getting 30, 40 new patients a month. But that number, because they send me their database for marketing, it never goes up. It stays right around 1,200. So I always think about that. And that's part of the reason, too, that I don't like to really help a practice with marketing if they're coming in the front and going out the back, because it's not doing them a service. So that's why it's so important. Like our friend Linda Miles says, is develop these relationships with our patients. Everything is our relationship. If we can have solid relationships with our patients, you're going to retain many more patients in your practice.
So who's calling your consulting network, and what are the because the problem you have right here during this podcast, these dentists are all alone. They practice by themselves. They're in the car listening to you. There's not even anyone else in the car, and they're probably they just never know. Am I that person that a consultant would help me, or I think I'm doing good because I made 150,000 last year. I think I'm doing it. Well, I mean, but you have a completely different advantage because you see hundreds of offices, decades of seeing multiple offices. So how do you transfer what you see to this individual listening to you? She's driving to work right now, and you have 35 different specialties. What are problems that you can solve? And describe what these problems are. So when she's driving to work, she's saying, "Oh yeah, that's my office. Yeah, I'd love to have that fixed."
Well, I'll tell you what I'm hearing a lot of now, are a lot of, and it's been in the last year and a half, 2 years, I'm hearing a lot of doctors that are planning to sell their practice or retire in 5 years, and they want to start planning for that. So what do I need to do? I want to get my ducks in a row. I want to plan for 5 years. I want to ramp up my production so my practice value is more. I want to look at how am I going to bring an associate or a partner in and maybe have a ready-made buyer. I'm getting a lot of that. Another one is team issues, people conflict within the team. I get that sort of thing. Of course, because a lot of them know me for marketing practices that typically want to grow their practice, and what do we suggest as far as an approach for that? So it's across the board. It could be really, my hygiene department is really not producing. I want to add a hygienist. I want to implement a perio program. How can you help me do that? It could be like what Christine does too, as far as billing and coding. A lot of people are wanting to add the medical billing to their practice. And I've learned so much from spending time and talking with Christine on the medical billing side. I was blown away by what can be done with medical billing. And so it's across the board, I would say. I'm getting all kinds of things, but a lot of them that are planning to retire in the next 3 to 5 years and really want help with that.
See, now, me personally, I mean, maybe just me. I mean, they say the worst thing you can do in business is project your own bias onto the marketplace. But to me, it seems like when you have an exit strategy, it's a red flag of something else going on. It's depression. You hate your team. You don't like what you're doing. Why? Look on Shark Tank. When they ask you what you're gonna do for money, if you say that that you plan on selling this business in 5, if you show an exit strategy, Mark Cuban, the billionaire on that deal, says, well, you already have an exit strategy, so your heart's not in it. I'm out. I mean, I look at dentistry as a vocation, not an occupation, and everybody who was legends in my book, whether it's scientists like Thomas Edison, they died at their workbench lab, still doing research. I mean Tesla. I mean, these guys were doing research the last day of their life. Sam Walton was found dead at his desk. In politics, France's President Mitterrand was found dead at his desk. I mean, when someone tells me, "Oh yeah, I want to walk away from this whole thing in 5 years," I'm like, dude, that's messed up. I mean,
a lot of them aren't happy though, Howard.
So they should.
Happy.
Why are they not happy? And don't you think they should try to get happy instead of trying to exit and take their same baggage to the next career they go into?
And you know how they can get happy is with good leadership. Put a great team in place, great leadership, develop leaders within their practice, and they can be hands off. They can do the clinical. The practice I was in for 16 years, I mean, it was incredible. I had the best leader and didn't know it. I mean, because he developed us as leaders, and he delegated and he trusted us, and he had it made. He's in his 70s loving dentistry. So I mean, that's key.
And I also don't even know why they'd want to sell their business and retire. Why wouldn't you keep the business? I still think that the most interesting business story I ever learned was in '87. I came out here and I met this 80-year-old lady who had 4 offices. And I went and met her, and we were talking, learning her story. Anyway, long story short, she was Jewish, so she left Germany when Adolf came into power. And when she got to the United States, they wouldn't recognize her dental degree, so she couldn't practice dentistry. But she was smart as a whip and said, well, okay, so I can't do the dentistry, but I can own a dental office. I'll just hire me a dentist. And she had 4 offices, north, south, east, west. She was like 80 years old. They were each doing over $1 million. And that woman was having more fun in her life. And it just looks like say a dentist says, well, I want to retire in 5 years because my back's hurting me or my neck's hurting me or this or that. I still don't understand why you wouldn't keep your business and hire an associate and sit there and say, I have a goal where every year I'm going to work an hour less and take home $1 more. And in this many years, like right now in my dental, I don't have to go in and do the dentistry. I mean, I'm 53 years old. I don't have to, so why do you think they're not happy? Do you think it's mostly the staff they're with, the team, they don't delegate? Do you think, what do you think it is?
They don't like the business end of it. They don't like dealing with the financial end of it. They don't like when patients reject them and don't accept treatment. They don't like when they have to manage the team, when there's conflict within the team. They don't like dealing with the whole business side of it. That's what I see for the most part. I think most of them love the clinical dentistry. But the other part is when they're presenting treatment, they're doing small things. They're doing a crown here, fillings here. I'm surprised because, again, the practice I was in, we did huge restorative cases, full mouth restorative, cosmetic, perio treatment, everything. We referred all the specialty out, but I mean, everybody was restored beautifully. And we were able to sell those cases, and it wasn't so much selling. It was like we believed in the dentistry and saw what it did. But I think that when they get that rejection, or they really are not that good, or don't have a great treatment coordinator to present the treatment, then they're doing all this little stuff and they're running around all day long and they're tired. And like you said, their back hurts, they're frustrated, they feel rejected. I think that's a big part of it, honestly. And it's not rocket science to change that.
You know, I believe, Robin, and you heard me this week, we should start looking at the positive, because there's always going to be a negative no matter what we do. But there are positives in everything we look at. And when I hear doctors say, oh, I don't want to deal with the government, I don't want to deal with the Affordable Care Act, you don't have to do anything. But what you do have to do is to be happy and look at what's the positive in this for me, for my patients, for my team. Because if you're happy, your team will be happier. Mm-hmm. They will reflect your mood and your stance. If they don't care about safety, and Leslie, correct me, nobody in the office is going to care about safety. They're just going to come in, do what they have to, and leave. And that is a reflection of not being happy with yourself. And then it goes into your business. And there's something, you're right, Howard, there's an underlying issue if you can't be happy 90% of the time, because life is short. And God, I'm older than all of you. And every day I look at, what would I do if I didn't go to work? And I would probably be crazy. As much as I say I'm crazy working and traveling, I would miss it, because I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And I think that's the big difference between the world of success and the world of non-success. It's your own individual happiness with what you do every day.
So one of my biggest complaints, and Leslie's saying, when do I get to talk? One of the biggest complaints I have with dentists is, when they say, yeah, dentistry is multifactorial and I work with a lot of specialists, they usually mean 9 dental specialists. And, when you tell me that your office does TMJ, first thing I do, I call Spade is, okay, show me the referral pad to your psychologist that you refer these people to that are all stressed out, grinding their teeth, and if you can't see that there's a brain attached to those teeth, and that's the same thing I see with dental consultants. I mean, a lot of dental consultants, when they start talking to a dentist, they have to be able to look at this dentist and say, you know what, there might be something else going on. You might have some depression, or this might be at home with your spouse, or you know what, or your kid, something happened to one of your kids, or I know a dentist. I know a dentist who's the worst story in the world. The teenager wrecks and dies in a car. I know another dentist who almost lost practice because his 6-year-old daughter died of leukemia, and that was just going through that the practice just ran into the ground because they didn't care. They were completely fried. So do you oftentimes, when you're working with a dentist, do you look behind the curtain and say, you know what, I think you need to work out the issue with your child that died, or your divorce, or something to get your head on right so that you can approach this dental office?
We often say we feel like psychologists, because we do. And sometimes we get caught in between the spouses wars and all kinds of things. So it's that, definitely that happens, at least in my experience.
And the biggest spouse war can be solved in 5 minutes. You just look at the spouse, say, do you want to be working in here? And she says 99% of the time, no, he makes me. I want to be home with my 3 kids, but he makes me, and I put him in daycare. And you just turn to the dentist like, so when you were making out with her in the back of a car, you asked her if she was going to be your office manager? I mean, how does marrying a woman translate to an office manager? Which leads into my, so that's what I said to every spouse at a dinner table. Do you want to run to the dental office? 95 times out of 100, hell no. And then I just turn to the dentist, dude, man up, you're an idiot. Let her go. Let her go do what she wants to do. You focus on you. So tell me this. If you go out with 6 dentists, half of them will say, I don't believe in office managers. The other half say, I do. It always seems like the half that does, their practices are twice as big and their net is twice as big. What do you think? And do you think if a dentist just wants to do clinical and they're not interested in HR and listening to the team and the team huddle and insurance and billing and all that kind of stuff, they either just say, okay, well, you married me, you're dumb enough to marry me, you come to work with me every day and fix that? Or do you believe in an office manager? Is that Can that solve all your problems if you bring in a rocking good office manager?
I think it's a good start, because you've got to have a good team all the way around, the back office, front office, hygiene department. I mean, you've got to have leaders in your practice. And yeah, I definitely believe in an office manager. And I mean, that's somebody that they can count on when they're, like you said, when you're not in the office. You know things are getting done the way you'd want them done. You know they're looking at the production and collection and new patient goals and doing something about it to meet goals. You know that they're leading your practice. So I mean, it's your support team. Otherwise, the dentists that don't have office managers, or if you want to call them leaders within their practice, they're constantly pushing their team. The ones with good leaders in their practice, the leaders are, everybody's going together. They're pulling the doctor along sometimes when he needs it. I know the practice I was in when he was going through hard times, I'd come in and go, you're just not focused, and we got to get focused because we got to make this happen. We got this many more days left in the month, and we got to make it happen. And so you have a team. It's not just the doctor trying to make things happen on their own.
It all comes out of people. I mean, it's people, time, money. And I always tell every dentist, if you get the team right, everything else takes care of itself. It's the same thing when you're watching the NFL on Sunday. I mean, if you got the best quarterback, the best tight end, the best running back, if you got all the best players, somewhere by the end, you're going to find a way to win the game. And my God, if your quarterback isn't any good, if your wide receiver can't catch a ball, if your lineman can't make a tackle, it's so when you go into an office, what percent of the time do you think it's a HR issue? That what's standing between now and your goals and success is really HR.
Probably 75% of the time.
So this dentist, so talk to her. She's driving to work. It's an hour commute. She's only got 25 more minutes till she gets to her office. What is your HR advice from doing HR for decades?
Well, one of the problems. Go ahead. Was that?
I wanted to chime in before we go to the problem. Is that we need to equip people with the tools they need to be rock star office managers or HR people or infection control or OSHA coordinators. And there are tools out there. There's training resources. There's organizations like ADOM and like OSAP that can give our team members the tools that they need so that not only do they have the confidence to go forward, I'm doing the right things, but they also have resources to reach out to other people who are just like themselves in other offices across the nation that can share their ideas and tools and maybe even have the wherewithal to say, doctor, I think we need to bring in somebody to help us with telephone skills. Or I need someone to help me with collections, or I need someone to help me with how to set up and organize the back office and the OSHA books. And people don't know what they don't know until they get the information in front of them and they say, oh, okay, that's what's missing. I need some help with this.
Yeah, people always know what they know. They'll never know what they don't know. I always imagine taking my iPhone and walking up to a person back in Salem 100 years ago and say, hey, if you talk into this little receiver, you can talk to your mom in the next county. They would have known you were a witch and they would have drowned you. They just never, ever know what they don't know. But I want to ask you specifically to ADOM. So this dentist is driving to work, and here's the number one complaint I hear. Half of the dentists in America, about 60% of the dentists practice in 117 metropolitans, where 51% of Americans. I'd say 60% live in the 117 largest metropolitan towns. The other half, about 40% of the dentists live where the other half of Americans live in these 19,022 small towns. And they just say, Leslie, Robin, Christine, I mean, come on. This town's only got 5,000. I got the smartest person in this entire town. I mean, the runner-up was the greeter at Walmart. So then this dentist, she's thinking, I see this ADOM, and I see these mostly women going through and getting their, my office manager's a man, by the way, but going through getting their fellowship of ADOM. Is that a smart move? Is that worth the resource? I mean, I'm in Parsons, Kansas. Shirley's all I got. She doesn't have any training. There's no dental school in Parsons, Kansas. There's no dental assisting academy. There's nothing out here. Is it worth the money to say, look, your goal is you're going to get your fellowship in ADOM? Talk about that. Is that a worthy investment?
I personally think it is, and I actually know ADOM quite well because I worked with Heather since she started ADOM. And I know a lot of the office managers that do participate in ADOM. They have an incredible online forum, which, and this isn't a commercial for ADOM by any means, but it's the truth. They have a great forum. So when an office manager is in a little town and feels like they don't have a resource to turn to, that forum is there all day long, and they've got their membership. I think it's like around 2,000 now. They've got all those office managers that want to help each other jump on and go, oh, I had this experience, or I had this, or yeah, I worked with that company and they were great, or oh, we tried that and that didn't work, but this worked for us. So I mean, just that networking that they have with one another, and their conference and their webinars and their material offers, it's constantly information for the office managers. So I think it's a great organization.
Can you email Heather to tell her I want her to come on here and explain the whole program to these dentists about how they can invest resource? I mean, these kids come out with $250,000 invested in themselves with student loans to become a dentist. And sometimes you just got to sit there and look at you and say, okay, I like Charlene. I think she's worth the investment. I want to invest the time, money. I know I'm going to have to do a lot of things, flyer places, whatever, but I want to, and go through the fellowship program with me. Can you get her to do that?
Sure.
And then tell her also, I want to survey for Dental Town Magazine. I want her to survey those 2,000 office managers, and I want you to ask them what % of the dentists are crazy. And then I want to have some research that I can show these guys. Look, here's the research. It's at 86%. What % of the what do you think the percentage would come? If you survey those 2,000 office managers, what % of the dentists would you say they would say that we are crazy?
Now, Howard, I would never say that they were crazy because they won't want to work with us. I don't want to offend them.
Oh my God. Well,
they do fit a certain profile. I will say that.
Well, if someone was sitting next to you in an airplane and said, what's a dentist like? Describe a dentist. How would you describe a dentist?
Oh boy. Christine or Leslie, why don't you take that one?
Well, I would think that this is a person that obviously is a caregiver, otherwise would not have gone to school to be in the healing arts, but also a person that does have some entrepreneurial skills, because you've got to have a team, you've got to have a building, you've got to have supplies, you've got to know how to balance all of that. It would be someone that hopefully would be able to communicate well with people, including the people that the dentist relies on to support their business. So people person, number one, would be a big attribute.
Yeah, that'd be a big asset, but that's not what they get, because if you were, I'll tell you, this is the bottom line. Because there's 2 dental schools in my backyard. When I went to college, if I would have joined a frat, had a girlfriend, had a date once a month or a week or whatever, and was well-rounded, made A's, B's, and a couple of C's, I would have never got accepted to medical school, dent school, law school. My floor had 88 boys on that floor, and 4 of us got in dental school. And you know what we did every night? We sat there. Every night I heard this. Every single night I heard this. Ding. The library will be closing in 10 minutes. And that's when we knew it was midnight. And then we would walk back to our dorm, wake up at 6 o'clock the next morning. I didn't have a car or a date in all of undergrad or the first 3 years of dental school. I went 7 years of my life without a date or a car. We're all geeks. That's how we got in. We sat in the library and we mastered geometry, trig, and physics. So we got a dental degree. We are the farthest group from people skills you'd ever find. Dentists don't even have enough personality to become an accountant. They're happiest when they're alone in their closet. And it's sad because when we're talking about earlier where patients are coming from other dental offices or whatever, and I'm trying to figure out why they left my buddy and one of my best friends who's a dentist right across the street or up the street, or what. I know all these guys. We hang out in bars and watch football games, and it's always a communication breakdown. They're always telling me a story. It's like, dude, I've known this dentist for 25 years. There's no way he could have said this. And I'm back there on my iPhone calling him, and he's like, well, I said this. And I said, well, you know what she heard? She heard this. And she's saying, oh, yeah, really? That's what she said? Is she crazy? And I'm like, no, dude, you're crazy. You're crazy. All the Americans are crazy. Trust me, you're crazy. They're not. But it's always a people issue. And it seems like every dental office I see crushing it, the first thing you know it, when you call them on the phone, the person answering it is just all personality and congenial and warming.
Yeah.
And when you walk in, it's all personality. Then when you walk into the other dental office, you call the other dental office, can you please hold? And then you walk in there and they have a sliding glass door. And you're just like, that's why I'm not a dental consultant. Because I wouldn't even know where to start. It's like, dude, this place is so dysfunctional. Where would you even begin? I think we should burn it down and call the fire department, see if we can get some insurance money. I mean, how do you turn around a company where the dentist wants to take 20 hours of bone grafting courses and he won't allow his hygienist to talk to the patient because that's illegal because she's diagnosing and treatment planning? I mean, it's just...
Howard, those people don't hire us. Those dentists aren't the one. They're not our clients. And Linda and I have had this conversation so many times. It's the dentists that are doing well that want to continue to do better that hire consultants. It's the ones that really need us. We never hear from them.
I know. So I look at all my friends, like who has the greatest practice I've ever seen on the most fronts. And I'd have to say it's Jerome Smith in Lafayette, Louisiana. And, he has a consultant come in every year. And I have a awesome office. I've had so many consultants in over the last 28 years. And then you find the person it's just miserable who would benefit the most. And they've never used a consultant ever. And that is just, it's just crazy. So everyone that doesn't need it and is already rich and successful are bringing them all in. And we all believe the same thing. All of us successful dentists believe there's no way a consultant could stay in business in this small little industry of dentistry where they're not making a return on investment. They got happy customers somewhere. They grow by word of mouth referral. And all of us know that if you give a consultant $1 before the end of the year, you're going to get that $1 back and more money. So it's just a return on investment. Just like, I want to make more money. I want to be more successful. I want to do less, delegate more. I want to have it easier, more well-run. I want a Mercedes-Benz Rolex watch dental office that just always works. I don't want a Chevy. I don't want a Ford. I don't want a Chrysler or a Buick. And so all the successful people use all the consultants, and all the people that would just, oh my God, it'd be their lifesaver. They're trying to save money. And it's the same thing. If you notice this when you go to a convention, when you're lecturing to a room, there's 300 people. There's 150 people on the right side of the aisle and 150 on the left. And on the right side of the aisle, it's all like one dentist. It's like 10% dentist and then all their staff, a couple of receptionists, a hygienist or two or three assistants. The other side of the room, it's just all dentists who are saving money coming by themselves. Mm-hmm. And the group on the right, every one of those dentists takes home twice as much net income as the group on the left. And everyone on the left is saving money by leaving their staff at home and going to the seminar all by themselves. I mean, so how do you talk to that dentist?
That's the biggest issue. I teach at NYU, and one of the stories I bring up, Howard, is coming to your office when I first started in dentistry and watching your team in action. And it was an eye-opener for me that you allowed people in to see the good things, the things that work, the things that don't work, and how do you make it work. And that, to me, is about when they leave school. When I teach these graduating students, I remind them that they made an investment, but that investment is just the beginning of the investment, and that when they go to set up a practice or they go to work for somebody, they have to continue to grow. They have to continue to invest, because without that, you will not be successful. You will be the miserable dentist in the office. And I just believe that if you keep learning, there's a special thing about the people that want to keep learning and are open to hearing a different way of doing something. And I think working with Robin and Leslie, that's the biggest thing we get, is that we don't have to be perfect, but we love learning from each other as much as we love giving to those clients. And you're right, they're the ones that make the money. They've made an investment in us, but they are happier and then able to make more money. And their teams are happier because we are giving them tools to learn. It's amazing to me how many doctors put up a computer system and then won't pay for training.
Or won't utilize it, right?
To utilize it. It's like, it mind blows me. And sometimes when I start with an office, half the consulting isn't coming from me. It's setting up, training with their computer program, listening to their phone calls, having the ability to see what they know and where could we help them grow. And I think they find it fun if the doctor gives them the time and the ability to learn it. And that's when the whole team grows.
Sure.
So I think that that's a big proponent also. And I like the team training better than individual meetings for the exact reason you just said, Howard. If the doctor goes to a meeting alone or the team member goes to a meeting alone, they come back with that information, but they don't know how to share it.
Well,
They
I
don't
think
have to give it to each other.
I think what you said is you were shocked, of or I forgot how you said it, but letting you come in and see what works, what doesn't work,
Yeah.
whatever. I still think that the successful people, I think the personality trait I'm looking for is humility. Because I think if you're arrogant, you don't want anybody to see that you flunked this test or you don't have an OSHA manual or you have something wrong, and they don't want anybody to see it. So they close the door. And if you're successful, you're humble, so you listen to your staff. You're humble, you listen to your patients. You're humble, so you bring in a consultant. And you're totally have enough self-esteem to be able to write someone money, and they come in and say, dude, you're doing it all wrong. And you're like, okay, well, learn me, school me, educate me. And by the way, and they're always complaining, they've already invested all this money in their student loans, and they're fixated on that number until they get their first divorce. Then that number looks minuscule. That number looks like a rounding error. I graduated $87,000 in student loans, and my divorce cost me 43 times more. So, so your student loans is just a warm up. But yeah, it's just humility. It's just saying, hey, and that's what, if you're listening to this, that's what you need to be hearing. You need to be hearing that. Quit being an arrogant know-it-all dentist. Just because you got an A in calculus, physics, and geometry, just because you know 23 ATP come out of glucose in the Krebs cycle, doesn't mean you know how to run your business. And these people, if you give them $1, you're going to get $1 and a penny back minimum, and you might even get $2 back. By the way, how do these people, of the three, give them your contact number? Why should they give them a pitch? We've been here 40. How much time we got? We're down to 9 minutes. Give them your pitch and your contact information of what problem you would solve. Go across the board for 3 in a row.
Go ahead, Christine.
Oh, okay. My email is ctaxon@linkstosuccess.biz. My number is 914-450-2906. I know that when I go into an office, one of the first things I look at is I don't ask what they do. I look at the codes they use and then pretty much know what type of programs they're running and how I could help implement a higher quality of treatment just by looking at their codes.
Okay, but do you come?
Know.
Is this all done with you online, or do you physically?
I do a lot of that online because they send me reports. Similar to Robin, I look at where they're at before I even go into their office. So I could tell them in advance where I could help them and where I would concentrate on for them to see an investment pretty quickly in the consulting world. And then we move on to adding the OSHA, the marketing, because if they don't have something to say we're being successful, they just think we're there to just sell them more and more stuff. And I want them to see.
And how much does this person listening to you in their car have to pay to for a consultation? I mean, for you to log into do you log into their computer? Is that what you do?
Sometimes I log in, and sometimes they prefer to send me the reports.
And how much does that cost for a diagnosis and treatment plan, for them to send you the reports or let you log in? And
$500, that's it.
$500?
And I send a big report with all of their statistics on it. And I highlight not only what they did, but what their fee schedule is in their zip code so that they know where they lie on the scale from 40% to 95%. Because if you do work with insurance companies and your fees are too low, you'll never get a raise, ever. And that's one of the big concerns with a lot of practices. Well, I'm getting the same fee for the last 5 years. Well, you haven't looked at your fee.
And how much? And what is the most common $500 fee in dentistry? What clinical procedure costs $500?
2 composites is $500.
Okay, so for the price of 2 fillings, Christine could dial into your computer. For the price of 2 fillings, I mean, you can do that. I mean, people, you know, I've had a yard service my whole life because I would rather stay at the office and do 1 more filling than get a weed eater and mow my yard. You know what I mean? Especially when it's 118 degrees and I'm a bald albino Irishman out there working on my melanoma. Robin, give your pitch. Why should one of my listeners call you, and what could you do for them, and how does that go about?
Sure. So Dental Consultant Connection, we talked about it a little bit. We have created this group of about 35 phenomenal, cream of the crop speakers and consultants in dentistry. And so the way they can get involved with us on our website, which is dentalconsultantconnection.com, they can do an analysis. The ones listening to your podcast now can do the analysis at no fee. And what it is basically we're collecting their information, their numbers, how many hygienists they have, production, collection, new patients, how much insurance they do. So it's a pretty comprehensive analysis that really shows us an initial picture of their practice. Normally that's $795, but we are offering it at no fee. And then we'll follow up with a call to go over that, to address any initial concerns they have in their practice. And then from that point, then I connect them to the appropriate consultant that I feel can best serve them. And we set up a conference call. So they can get all that and get the initial call with the consultant at no fee. So it really makes it easy for them. And I don't want it to be like we're pitching dental consulting, because we really just want to work with the practices that want to get stronger and better and grow their practices. So that's probably the best way to.
And if you're listening out there, I mean, there's just some dead giveaway variables that just track success. You know, number 1, not being born in the United States. Number 2, your mom and dad own their own business. Number 3, people who take 100 to 300 hours of continuing education a year. So they always, because you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. And when you're going to CE, it's not so much even the lecture you're listening to. It was the lunch that you sat next to a guy at the lunch for an hour. Then he started telling you about stuff. I mean, you went to an implant course, and then during lunch, he's telling you about endo or practice management or marketing or something, or you're out there talking to a guy in the vendor booth. And that's why I am so passionate about my podcast, is because I know if I can trick this crazy dentist who knows it all. He says, damn it, I got an A in geometry. How dare you think I don't know something? I can do trig in my head. But if it's a free podcast and he's just sitting there saying, I just want to listen to this, I don't want to listen to talk radio, especially this year, it's going to be a horrible year of talk radio because it's only going to be one subject, the election. You know what I mean? And, you know, who wants to listen to that crap for a year? And then you go, so they're just listening to this stuff for free, and I'm going to trick them out because they can listen to 100 to 300 hours of podcasts for free while they're multitasking on the way to work. So I'm just exposing them to people like you. And dude, I'm telling you, all the people, I don't know a single dentist who takes home $250,000 to $500,000 a year net income who didn't have a lifelong addiction to consultants and continuing education. Mm-hmm. End of story.
Well, that's how it was in the practice that I came from. I was in the one practice for 16 years. He flew us all over the country for CE. He brought like Abram King and Walter Haley and Dick Barnes. And we learned so much from these people. We didn't just go to their seminars. He then met them and brought them into our practice to work with us. But we were top 1% in the nation at the time on a solo practice, working 3.5 days a week and taking about 16 weeks off a year. So, you know, I know it works.
Well, you know what, Robin? Seriously, when I saw you on the podcast today, the split second I saw you, I could tell you had been Barnesified.
Wow.
Cause you're just going, Dick Barnes, he used to call that. Dennis would come back from his seminar and they go, man, I went and saw Dick Barnes and I've been Barnesified.
Do you know our practice pretty much doubled after we heard him, and he consulted in our practice, and this was in the 80s.
And you know that about half the dentists in the United States complain that they have to take 12 hours of continuing education to renew their dental license.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're writing their congressman right now, you know, and they just don't, I mean, it's so frustrating that people just know what they just know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. So what's the best way to contact you? Robin at dentalconsultantconnection.com.
Yes, that's good. And then our office phone number is 727-447-4756. And then I shared our website. It's dentalconsultantconnection.com.
Fantastic. Leslie, you've been on before. You can actually listen to Leslie for an hour on a previous podcast done, 6 months ago?
About a year ago, Howard.
About a year ago?
They had published 6 months ago.
Okay. So why and how do they contact you and for what?
Okay, so people contact me when they are either facing an audit or they're worried the dental board is going to be investigating them, or an insurance company type of investigation, or even OSHA. But again, the people who are afraid and running scared, it's a little too late for them. They can't recreate what they haven't done. So again, the great offices, the ones, the top 5%, 10% of dental offices that think they're doing all the right things, contact me just for confirmation that they are doing well and to improve on whatever they can. My contact information is Leslie, Leslie, at LeslieCanham, CanHam.com. Now, when I'm going to make this offer that if someone wants to, one of your listeners would like to contact me, I will provide 10 minutes of free telephone consultation time. I have a toll-free number, so it doesn't cost any of the listeners anything to get some of my intellectual property for 10 minutes. My phone number is 888-853-7543. And I will be happy to respond to any questions or concerns or provide any assistance I can. I'm a firm believer in having checklists. In fact, for myself, being in dentistry 44 years, I know that if I start to take a full series of films or images on a patient, I've got to start upstairs at tooth number 1 or 2, work my way over to 15, 16, go downstairs and take the lower arch back to where I started. If I start in the middle, I lose my way. And so I'm a firm believer of giving people checklists and charts that they can immediately implement, give them the information that they need so that they feel more confident and that they feel that they have value for what they have invested in me.
Very good. And I want to remind our viewers of something very, very serious about what Leslie's talking about, because I know whenever Robin starts talking about HR and people and team leadership, a lot of dentists say, I don't want to listen to fluff and soft stuff. You know, I want to talk about bone grafting. Do you use BMP? What kind of implant system do you use? They think the most important thing there is the soft stuff. That's what they call it to me. They say, well, that's just soft stuff. That's fluff stuff. Are you drawing blood? Are you centrifuging platelets? When you're doing a bone grafting, are you using, you know, and it's like, dude, you're a technician. You should have been an engineer. You should have been programming an iPhone. You don't even get it. They don't even get it that all the dental side, hell, you can hire a dentist. As I'm talking to you, I got 2 dentists next door doing all the damn dentistry. Everything they focus on, I can hire a monkey to do that in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But back to Leslie is, I don't want to mention any names. I don't want to throw anybody on a bridge, but there's been some big hepatitis outbreaks in the dental industry this year, and all my friends that know these guys, they said these were good old boys. These were nice guys. They just didn't know what they didn't know, and an infection got out, and it's horrible. And yesterday, for the first time ever, they just sentenced on that last salmonella outbreak. 19 people died, and they just sentenced that guy to 28 years in prison. Yep. It's no longer, well, you know, shit happens, you know, okay, you know, we had some dirt and mold somewhere. And I'm telling you, in a ever shrinking world of social media and texting and cell phones and Facebooks, these infection outbreaks the Centers for Disease Control have known that 300,000 Americans die each year from an infection they caught at a healthcare provider. And they're zeroing in on this. And dude, your life will be ruined if all of a sudden they find out that, oh yeah, those 3 people that died and had to have a liver transplant, yeah, they all have one thing in common. They all went to your office in the last week. And their epidemiological models know 300,000 Americans die from an infection they caught from a healthcare provider, and those days are over. So OSHA is no longer, I'll get around to it. OSHA is that if you screw up and you have a hepatitis A, B, C, whatever in your office, it's going to be a deal breaker. It's like going out and shooting a lion in Africa. You know what I mean? You know, those days are gone where you can just quietly fly to Africa, shoot a lion, and put his head above your fireplace. I mean, that just doesn't work in a world of Facebook anymore. Hey, on that note, we are in overtime. It's 1 hour and 3 minutes. I want to thank you so much. And my biggest error on the podcast, I mean, like I did 12 podcasts in a row just on implants. And I know that's a bias of mine, you know, I know. But if you've got 35 rocking hot dental consultants, I swear I'd do an hour with each one of them, because I'm a dentist. I'm the first one to admit that. I'm crazy. I'm a dentist. I'd rather pull 4 wisdom teeth and play golf any day. I'd rather do a molar root canal than go on a cruise. I mean, I love that stuff. And I think the greatest feeling I get in life is when someone comes in and they're in a toothache and they're crying and they're swollen and they're scared and whatever. And I can fix all of that. I mean, I love that. I mean, I'm like when a fireman sees a house on fire, he doesn't want to tell anybody, but he loves it. You know what I mean? It's obviously bad for the family and all that kind of stuff, but a fireman wants a fire, a policeman wants to catch a bad guy. I want the emergency toothache from hell, you know, but we have to pay attention to the other side, and that's what you represent. And honestly, what I've done, and, you know, I've got Lori Zalowski, you know, who's been with me for 20 years. I still have my first dental assistant, Jan, of 28 years. You know, I got, you know, so my long-term team pretty much does what you do, but I know I have to be focused on enough. So if you want to deliver 35 in a row, I'll do it. I'll just give these guys, you're going to sit through 35 hours of everything you don't want to hear. And if you just force yourself
to hear.
Yeah, you need to hear. I mean, really, we want to pull a wisdom teeth. We don't want to learn about insurance billing and coding and OSHA and how to have a morning huddle. I mean, that you didn't go to school 8 years for that stuff. You went to school 8 years to pull a wisdom tooth, to do a root canal. You know, you want to fire. You want to chase a bad guy. But anyway, so if you want to deliver that, and I also think if you did that, it'd be the first curriculum we've ever did in Dental Town where, you know, Dental Town, all those courses are onesies. Someone will go in and they'll do an hour. But if you ever did a curriculum from A to Z and said, here's a continuum and here's a deal, and it's going to be 1 hour from each, it's going to be 35 hours long. And we promise you, if you sit through that for 35 hours, you'll at least know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah, we'll get on that.
All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. And by the way, I've always only had one guest. And you're my first time. We pioneered. My son Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Figured this out for me where we got 3 people at one time. All right, Ryan.
Yeah, this is cool.
All right, Ryan. Thank you.
We get to see it.
Okay. What'd you say? When will we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have no idea.
Or hear it.
No idea. How long, Ryan? 1 or 2 months, he says.
Oh, come on.
I don't know. But anyway, okay. Well, thank you so much. And you guys have a rocking hot day.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.